Welcome back to the Buddy Ruski Show. This is episode 3. I appreciate you guys listening today. I have my good friend Toriano Fredericks in the building being my house, my newly renovated studio here. Toriano, thanks for being on the show.
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I'm glad I caught you on a day off. It's pretty rare for you to not either be on the truck or prepping the truck for your next day out. So I appreciate you making time for us to chat.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's nice to have a little day off. We've been extremely busy, so this is a nice break.
Yeah. Speaking of being busy, you guys were. I had the pleasure of joining you for your time in the pop-up space at American Tobacco in September. That was a lot of fun. You know, with Art of Cool and some of the other stuff happening, it seemed to be a nice opportunity for you guys to get in front of a lot of new folks in the American tobacco space and just in Durham in general. But I want to hit the rewind button and go back a little bit. You haven't always been doing the food truck, or I guess working in food. And unlike my two guests before this are actually not from North Carolina, if I have my facts straight. So where are you from and how did you end up here?
Right. So I was born in the great southern state of Connecticut, in a small town called New Canaan. And I was raised by my grandparents. And so my grandmother is from Andersonville, Georgia, and my grandfather is from Hillsborough. Okay. So that's kind of my link to North Carolina. So like a couple summers did come down to Hillsborough. I don't remember all that much of it. I just remember, like farm life type stuff, like rows of collards and that type of thing. And so, yeah, I grew up in Connecticut, and as you mentioned, lacrosse. That's how I end up playing lacrosse because what else is there?
It's a way of life,
right?
Yeah.
So from there, I went to United States Merchant Marine Academy. But when it got that time to go to college, it was trying to figure out how we're going to pay for it. My grandfather worked for the post office, and my grandmother cleaned houses. So I knew that I wanted to go to college, but it was just kind of, where was I going to go? I was a, okay lacrosse player, football, I wasn't going D1, terrible 1AA or D3 at best. So I find out about Merchant Marine Academy and like, okay, well, this is a federal service academy, so it's paid for. And I guess I'll go here, and people always ask me, did you grow up loving boats or I didn't even visit the campus before.
Oh, wow.
Before I went there, I was just like, well, this is going to be it. It's free.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I go to the Merchant Marine Academy. First, I went to Naval Academy Prep School for a year. And that's just a place where they send you for a year if your grades are kind of suspect. And they just want to make sure, like, if you get through that program, then you're good to go. That's where Naval Academy sends, most of their athletes and things like that. And Merchant Marine Academy sends about 12 people there. And so, I was one of them. And so did a year there. That was 1997. I graduated high school in 96, so old school.
I won't say how old I was in 1996.
Right. So I go to Merchant Marine Academy, and that's a 4-year university. 1 year is your sea year, and you go out to sea, and you do your sea project. And so that was a really cool experience for me.
Because you say you didn't visit the campus. Had you been on a boat before going to this school?
There was a lake in Connecticut called Lake Candlewood where water skiing. That was about it.
Okay.
No, I'd never been out to sea or on a big boat. I think the furthest I'd actually been from Connecticut was probably North Carolina, like summers here and there. So no, it was just kind of only option really, But at the end of the day, a good option. Like I said, so I during my sea year, you go out with your they call it your sea partner, and so it was at the time my best friend, and so we're in all these different countries. We're in Italy, Spain, Egypt, kind of enjoying life a little bit and learning about going to sea. He's an engineer, and I was on the deck side, so that was a really good experience. And then come back, I graduate 2002. I did an extra year there. It's called a setback. It's kind of not a regular thing, but it's a lot of people had to get that extra year in there.
Yeah.
So I graduated 2002, and then I started going to sea. And I think in that time, it's just like seeing the world again and eating in different places and coming home and trying to try these different things out. I think kind of shaped me a lot, and kind of seeing how different people live around the world.
Yeah. What were your options coming out of the program? Did you know that you were going to go back out to sea, or were there other things you were thinking about?
So you do have options. I mean, you don't have to go to sea. So for instance, I went out to sea for a little bit on an oil tanker, and then I came ashore and got a job as a dispatcher for Moran tugs. They have a fleet of tugs up and down the coast, east and west coast, but it was dispatching tugs in New York. And that job was in my hometown, actually, in New Canaan, Connecticut. And so did that. And then I worked with a company called OMI, and that was basically doing operations for tankers. So I was in an office making sure that the ships had fuel, pilots, crew changes, that type of thing. So there are different options and different things that you could do. It just kind of depends on kind of where you are in life. If sea is for you, it's a different thing being away for long periods of time.
And what's that rotation like when you're out to sea? Are you there for a month at a time? Is it just a couple of days? What's your normal schedule like when you're making these trips?
Right. It depends on the type of ship that you're on. When I was going deep sea, it was you're gone for 4 months, and then you come home, and if you're with a union, you collect a union check, and you could be home for 2 months, 3 months, and then you go get another ship. That's tough. I mean, doing it when I was younger, that was fine because I didn't have a family, and it was I go away, come back, and a couple of years later, I was working on a dredge, and the rotation there was 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. So that's a little bit easier to deal with. It just kind of depends on the ship and where you are.
So how long were you in that position working on the oil tankers? Because I think when we met, you were still doing those rotations, but were kind of moonlighting as a food blogger.
Right.
We did some work together with Aaron over at Clarion Content, and you had I'm going to forget the name of the blog now, but
La Buena Vida.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so when I met you, you were a photographer, but then I found out about this other life that you had out at sea, and by this time you had already started a family, and so to your point about how your priorities change, as you get older and have a family, making that trip out to sea becomes a little more difficult. When did you and Serena, your wife, when did you guys meet?
All right, so wow, we gotta back that up a little bit. And Serena and I met in 2010 at a party that I threw in Florida to celebrate the year anniversary of my divorce.
All right.
Right. It was called my Independence Day. And so it was my Independence Day party. My sister, who was living in Durham at the time, this is in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. That's where I was living. And so I told my sister, I said, hey, I'm throwing this party. It's called my Independence Day. If you want to come down, we're going to a Jay-Z concert on Friday. We're going to get a limo on Saturday.
What year was this?
This was 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what Jay-Z album would have been. Was Blueprint 3 out at that point?
It was...
It was right around the time.
It was. It
Watch
had
the
DOA
Thrones, too.
whatever
Blueprint
DOA.
3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to that tour as well here in Greensboro.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jeezy opened up, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say maybe J. Cole was here for his show in Greensboro, because Cole was that was right when he was coming up, and
Right.
he was on the A Star Is Born on that same album. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, but back to the story. Your Independence Day here.
Right. Throwing my Independence Day party, and my sister comes down, and she says, hey, I'm going to come down. Can I bring my friend? I said,
And
yeah.
what was she doing in Durham?
She was working for AICPA at the time. So yeah, and her and Serena worked at the same place at the time. And so It's like, yeah, bring whoever. And she throws this little thing in there. It's like, yeah, you're not to mess around with her, okay? She's my friend. I like her, but she thinks you're cute. I was like, okay,
Well, that's not fair.
Right. That was the, I'm like, okay, so now I'm already feeling myself, like she thinks I'm cute. And I think Serena tells it differently. She said, I didn't, really say that, but yeah, you did. So yeah, she comes down and we basically, we hit it off. And that was one weekend. I think the next weekend, it's like, hey, do you want to come back down? And then the weekend after that, I'm driving to North Carolina. And then it was like, at this point, I am working 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. So I'd go away too. There was that period of 3 weeks where I'm down in Mobile, Alabama on a dredge. And so, yeah, it just started there as us floating back and forth until finally I was like, okay, I'm just going to put this house on the market for rent. And
in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I end up in North Carolina. At the time, she was living in Cary, and so we were living out there together.
And then how do you both make your way to, what makes you decide to come to Durham?
I think just at that point, we were living together in Cary for a little while, and then we just started house hunting. Basically, as I forget what point, whether a proposal came first or where we were in our life cycle. But I know we start looking for houses, and we're looking in Apex and Cary, Morrisville, different areas. At this point too, I'm already falling in love with Durham, so I'm kind of stuck on, like, I want to be near or in Durham. And that was at that point, like I said, that I met you. That had to be 2011, 2010 ballpark. And I know for me, I was seeking out creative people at that time too, because I myself was being more creative. Like you said, photography. I mean, when I was younger, these aren't things that I was really into. These are things too that started as I was going to sea. I'd bring my camera with me and take pictures, and same thing I started writing. Writing was never something that I was into, but it became a way for me to explain the pictures that I was putting on my blog, and then it became a way for me to explain these experiences that I was having. And I realized it was like, oh, I'm writing a lot, and so that's where I started seeking out people like yourself. You were involved with Clarion Content at the time, and just that first time meeting, I think we were downtown somewhere, and there was a bunch of other people that were contributing, and just meeting all these other people, photographers and people that were doing things in Durham was nice.
Yeah, it was it was the spring. It was 2013, I believe. It was a runaway event at what was then Mercury Studio. It's now the Mothership. But I remember because it was the first time that I met you, and it was the first time that I met Raj as well. And his art, for people that didn't have the opportunity to come to the pop-up space, was hanging on the wall in your space. So it was kind of this fun meetup where all these people that I ended up having relationships with from then on all met in this one spot. And Durham is good for that too, for those types of community events where certain relationships pop off and you start to see the fruits of that.
Yeah, that was my first time meeting Raj too. And again, that was years ago. And I've just kind of kept in touch through social media, really. For the most part, I bought one of his prints then, and it's in our home. And so when it came time for this pop-up, we knew we wanted some local artists, and that relationship that was started years ago, and just kind of, we see each other around every few months,
Right.
But it's been love since then, and so it's been very cool.
Yeah, he's definitely somebody that I want to have on the show as well. So you're looking at houses in Durham. Is your sister still here in Durham, or I guess at the time was she still here?
Right. Yeah, she was living in Durham at the time. Yep.
Okay. Did that play into your decision at all, kind of having more family here in Durham versus Cary?
I mean, everything kind of seems close.
Yeah.
Here anyway, and my grandmother's in Durham as well. So even if you're in Cary, because my sister's actually in Morrisville now. She's moved from Durham to Morrisville or Cary, one of the two. but everything's kind of close. I think it was just, more of, again, wanting Durham as my address, like like I didn't want to be outside that.
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but I just wanted to be.
People want to claim Durham.
Right.
Yeah. I've been here my whole life, so
Right.
I understand the itch to want to be a part of the community here. It's interesting to me that you, even when you're out at sea, you started getting into writing and photography. When I talked to Nick, he had a similar backstory where he was mostly doing sports in high school. He also played lacrosse, but then got into music, and music really started to drive his creativity and the things that he was interested in, even when he was in Japan. And so it's funny to me and this is partly why I'm interested in talking to people about this, because, we start to become defined by certain things. People see us, if you're a public-facing figure, or even if you're not, you become identifiable as, oh, that's that's the person from the Boricua Soul food truck, or that's the guy from Runaway, or that's the guy from Roundhouse, not realizing you have all these other parts of your personality that you're feeding every day, and so it's cool to see people evolve over time, to go from sports to arts, or vice versa, or from sports to arts to food in your case. And I'd love to talk more about your background in food, and what the origin is, or why you decided that the Boricua Soul food truck was the direction that you wanted to go. I know when we first met that it was becoming sort of tiresome, I guess, to make those trips out to sea as you're building a family. Your son Devin, I think, was only a couple years old, maybe.
Yeah, he was born in 2012.
Okay.
So yeah, when we first met, we didn't have Devin.
Yeah.
And he came in the picture. And
so that that switches up things a little bit.
Right.
And so your priorities obviously changed. Who has a bigger background in food, you or Serena?
I do.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
we both have a big background in eating it.
Sure.
But no, I guess I do, just because I've most of my life.
Would she say the same?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she would, because she doesn't really like
coming after me.
No, she really doesn't look at cooking the same way that I do. And again, I haven't even looked at cooking the way I do my whole life. I didn't grow up wanting to be a chef, or having this desire to cook. Even a lot of the stuff that I cook is inspired by my grandmother, in the foods that I ate as a child, at cookouts that my aunts made and everything.
Food's a big part of any culture, really. Right. But I feel like especially in the African American community in this country, food is a big driver for other things, for identity, for community. And so even if you're not someone who would consider themselves a chef, or like, when you grow up around it and it becomes a big part of your life, it's kind of hard to not want to participate, or to use that in your own life as you get older,
right.
For those same reasons, for community and all that.
Right. I think it's one of those things too that as I got older, I appreciated more. Again, it's when I was younger, I wasn't sitting with my grandmother, like, cooking or trying to get her recipes or anything. It was actually, when I was really younger, it was more of, you didn't like some of the stuff that she was cooking. It was just kind of like, you want some other stuff. Can we go to McDonald's?
Yeah.
I got your McDonald's right here.
It was blasphemous to say, yeah.
Right.
Oh, you're not going to eat your collard greens? What?
Right. And now it's this level of appreciation of those celebration foods. And again, some of these things, that I guess have some level of shame to them, because of their past, but it's a part of our history. These are foods that have been passed down. I get that a lot too with people like, well, you're from Connecticut. What do you know about soul food? It's like, I know everything about it. This is my grandmother was one of 11 or 12 kids in Andersonville, Georgia, and they all came up in the 1950s from Georgia to the Northeast, and they brought all of that food with them, and so this is, food I grew up with, in New Canaan, Connecticut.
Yeah.
It's what I've been eating my whole life.
Yeah, and so as you're thinking about what's next, what is the turning point for you in deciding I want to give up this life at sea to try and pursue something else? And were there other things that you were thinking about besides the food truck or a life in kind of food service?
I think initially, I was thinking about, how I could use photography as a way out, how I could get out the game. So, I started thinking if I could take pictures for food businesses and make videos and things like that. And so, part of what I was doing with my blog was speaking with people in Durham or in the area that had food businesses, and was making videos, about what they're doing or writing about their story. And again, a lot of people always wonder what you're looking to get out of something. Like I'd go to someone and say, hey, can I make a video about you and write? And the first question is, so how much is this going to cost me? And I was never looking for any money. It was content, it was inspiration, it was seeing, what can I do with this?
Yeah, and a way to build your portfolio as
right.
well. And when you're thinking about the long term, it's good to have work that you can point to say, hey,
right.
I've done these 10 things. Let me work on something for you.
Right, and so from there, I'm meeting these people, and I think I'm taking motivation from them. As far as seeing what they're doing in food. Some of these people didn't have any culinary experience previous, but they were able to take their passion and have a successful business. And so from there, Serena and I had thought in the past about a food truck. And so we start talking about, maybe an option for us is, starting a food truck, which she thought I was absolutely crazy. And
was she still working out in Cary at this point?
I don't think she was, because at this point we have Devin. So she was not.
Yeah.
No. I think she was staying at home at the time. And so there was this conversation about, food trucks, and remember we were on our way to the museum, to the zoo,
okay,
out in Ashboro.
Yeah.
And and I'm kind of thinking in my head, maybe we can do something with, smoke, like some type of I don't know if it's the barbecue truck or, and she just looked at me like, so we can be like not every other, but we want to compete with barbecue in North Carolina.
Right. There's a saturated market for barbecue.
Right. And coming in too with no history, no foundation, right. Just, and so she said, well, what about how we've been cooking at home? We've been mixing this, Serena's half Puerto Rican. And so we had been mixing this soul food and Puerto Rican cuisine at home since we had been together. And she said, what do you think about that? And I was like, yeah, there's not a Puerto Rican truck on the street. Okay. And so we started thinking about that. And then we went to a dinner. There's a culinary historian called Michael Twitty. And he did this dinner up at the plantation up here in Durham.
I should know, and I don't.
It'll come back to me in a minute. But he did this dinner up there, and again, it was just this celebration of food that sometimes people are ashamed of, and it was this conversation about celebration food and being proud of our heritage and this food. And so again, that seeing that and sitting in at that dinner as well was a motivation for us, and that's kind of where the idea started. I'm not sure what year that would have been.
And when you guys started the truck, you were still going out to sea, so there wasn't a clean break where you left that position and you guys started the truck. There was this transition period for you and for your family as you're trying to wean yourself off, I guess, of
Right.
of the life at sea into this new phase with the food truck.
Right. So it was 2015. Our truck was completed in the fall of 2015, and so
And you guys did a Kickstarter for
yeah,
that truck.
we did a Kickstarter to raise part of the money for the build out of the truck. So I think we raised $20,000 through our Kickstarter, and so that in itself was an experience. It's just nerve wracking.
Yeah.
So 2015, our truck is finished, and we start this process of, at this point, I'm going out to sea for 4 weeks at a time. So 4 weeks, I'm home. We operate the truck on weekends and during the week, and then we shut the truck down when I go back out to sea. And at first, it's difficult, but it's we're just figuring, okay, this is how we get started. We can test the waters. I still have my job. We're making money there. And so it was a good proving ground for us. And then it starts to get to a point where you're like, okay, is this a high functioning hobby? What are we doing here? Because now my off time, we're working a little bit more. And so we're spending so much time, I'm away and then I'm home, and that became difficult. But then it's like, okay, am I going to quit my job? That's my bread and butter, and
Right.
what I've been doing for my whole career. So it came to that point where we said, okay, we're going to do this or not. And if we're going to do it, it has to happen. We have to start in the spring, because we don't want to start the truck in the winter and when things get slow. And so this last spring in April, we decided it was going to be like our D-Day. And I think that was one of the scariest things that I've done in my life. I mean, just because you talk about it, so we knew a year ahead that this is what it was going to be, or about a year ahead, that was going to be our date. And it's one thing when you say it a year out, and then, but when you get to that last 30 days and you're like, I have to write a letter to my job, saying I'm not coming back, and that's going to be it. There's no health insurance. There's no more paycheck coming. Like, this truck is it now. And so that was difficult, but I think knowing that we were doing it together and Serena having my back was highly important to that. And it's something you can't do if both people aren't fully on board with it, because there's going to be this blame game, and well, you wanted to do this. It's got to be we wanted to do this, and so having that made it possible, definitely.
We're going to take a quick break. I do want to get a little bit more into the life of the truck in the year that you've been operating it full time, the pop-up, and talk a little bit about your rising star son, drummer extraordinaire, and what mega deal he might be signing here in the next few years. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. I'm back here with Toriano Fredericks of Boricua Soul food truck. If you haven't had any of the fabulous empanadas, well, really everything on the menu is fabulous, but my personal favorite, the mojo chicken empanadas, you are really missing out on a special treat here in Durham. So we're going to talk a little bit about that journey now that you guys have the truck, making the transition into full-time food connoisseurs. How has that transition been for you, going from part-time to full-time into this truck? When we left, you talked about it, the need for it to be a group effort, that there needed to be total buy-in from you and Serena on making this decision. So since jumping in headfirst into the truck, what have you guys seen or experienced as the fan base has grown and the business has grown?
Mhm. I think firstly one of the adjustments of operating a truck full time as opposed to part time is physically.
Mm-hmm.
Before we were in this kind of, we do a big event on a Saturday, and we had the next day we used to call it food truck hangover, where we were just sore and felt like, we can't go on, but we had a couple days to recover. When you start operating the truck full time, you have this, this pounding on your body of, walking around on the truck, moving things around, working in an environment where it's extremely hot, you're dehydrated. But it was this period of your body acclimating to that, where, now we do certain events and we're physically, it's still exhausting, but, a year ago we couldn't imagine doing something like that and then turning around and operating the truck the next day, so one of the adjustments was, just physically getting used to carrying out these actions on a daily basis. And then
Are you guys out 7 days a week?
no, we're not out 7. I mean, I'd say if we look at the calendar, it's probably anywhere, most weeks probably 5, possibly 6 on some of them. Again, some of them being doubles, which, again, a year ago, we couldn't fathom the idea of, flipping the truck around and going right back out and doing that multiple days. But I mean, you have to make money. So that's one of the things. And we knew that if we could get the truck out, and instead of doing this, the truck is there and then now it's not, where, we build this momentum for 4 weeks and then we have to tell people, well, we're not going to be out for the next 4 weeks. It's, it's disappointing on both ends. And we felt that if we can get a year under our belt of really getting this product out on the street every day and building that gathering and just seeing where we could take that,
At Beats and Bars Festival, you guys were, only a couple yards from the pop-up space. And I came by the truck and Serena had said that you guys were going to be in there. And I was really excited to hear that I was able to play some small part in spreading the word about that opportunity. And as I mentioned in the beginning, being able to work with you guys during that stretch it was really cool to see sort of inside the business. Mm-hmm. And being on the truck some and working inside the pop-up space and just seeing over time, you get in there the first day. And I mean, I guess for you guys, even day one, it was, lines out the door. It was pretty packed. So you already had a fan base that was waiting for you to have this permanent space. And then over time, just like lunch after lunch, it was a marathon,
Right.
But that's ultimately what you're working towards, right?
Right.
So now that you guys have done the truck for a little while, you've done this pop-up space, what is the next step? What are you guys looking forward to, in year 2 of doing this full time?
Yeah. I also want to just, before going to that, touch on kind of something that you were saying about the transition in that space. And you were able to see it from, so we opened on a Thursday. It was supposed to be a soft opening and we just got hammered. And then
One of those good problems.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you want. You want to have people, but there's also that middle ground of wanting people to have a good experience. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes difficult when you have people that are there, for their lunch hour and they have a 45-minute wait for their food. The line out the door isn't quite the issue because, I mean, that's a good issue because, you're having people come through. It's on the back end when, they have to wait that 45 minutes to get their food. So I think you started helping us out on Friday,
mm-hmm.
maybe.
The day after the soft opening.
And so you got to see the transition from that first day that you were there and where we were 3 weeks later and how efficient we were operating and with larger numbers. Our last Friday, we served more people than we did on that first day, but, with a 10-minute wait max, during our rush. And so, I mean, just seeing that transition in 3 weeks is very cool. I mean, we've got to see it transition over the 3 years as well, but visually seeing how you're able to just change through pain, really.
Yeah.
Like having a painful moment and saying how can we make this better, and you were a huge part of that, being because my legs weren't gonna make it 3 weeks.
Yeah. So, well, for people who, again, who didn't come by the pop-up space, the way that it was set up for you guys, because the space didn't have a full kitchen,
Right.
you were still cooking on the truck. So people would order in the pop-up space. There was seating where they could stay and eat their lunch, or they could take it to go, but it was still prepared on the truck. So
Right.
there was this back and forth between tickets from the pop-up space to the truck, and then the food back
Right.
to the space. And that was the fun part for me, was being able to be the legs in between and getting to face with people who were excited for you guys. And to be fair, you've had help prior to the short stint that I had. Jason, who works on the truck with you now, has been there how long?
Oh God, he's maybe 6 months or so.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit, but I think about 6 months.
Okay. So it was you and Serena before that.
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly Serena and I. We have Maria, who helps us
Right.
every now and then, and before we had Serena's cousin. From the start, it's been whoever can help. My
Yeah.
sister has helped on the truck. My brother-in-law, my nephews. Early on, that first year and first 2 years, it was Serena and I and whoever was available. And so that was another exhausting thing, that Serena and I doing mostly everything, and then trying to get that help on the truck when we can. During the pop-up, we had Jason, we had Maria working, but yeah, that legwork to get those tickets back and forth were highly important, because it's a couple minutes before we're seeing the ticket to even start the order.
Right.
And again, the most important thing for us is someone not only having good food, but having a good experience, and anything over that 10, 15 minute starts to, people get a little, ugh.
Yeah. Well, and their time is limited too. It's maybe a little different if somebody's going out to dinner, they've
Right.
got their evening ahead of them. Time isn't maybe as much of the essence versus someone in a tight window on their lunch break during work hours. It's crunch time for them. So, and they're feeling that pressure. You're feeling that pressure a little bit.
Yeah. And every part of service in that situation is important. I'll tell you, we did get a couple like reviews that mentioned you specifically. That they appreciated, your demeanor and how you helped. And
This is about you, man. This isn't about
but no, I mean, and again, Serena is the face of our business. She's in the window, and that's the first thing that people see, and that interaction is really important.
It says something about the way the teamwork that you guys have to be able to balance those responsibilities, and there's a level of trust that you have to have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, clearly that's true for your relationship in your marriage, but then also as you guys are business partners, and so that's a totally different dynamic that you have to think through and build on. So yeah, it's not easy, and it's probably not something a lot of people would want to to put on the table when they're thinking about doing business with their partner. But you guys, you like to joke, and it's something, again, that I got to see firsthand. You're very good about poking and prodding
Right.
each other, but in good fun, and it seems to create a very healthy work environment, not just for you guys, but for Jason and Maria, and I got to appreciate that as well. So now that you've done the truck, and we talked a little bit about this during the pop-up, are you guys considering permanent space? Is that something that you're really pushing for now, or is it more if it happens, it happens, but we're comfortable where we are with the truck as it stands.
Right. We're somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Before the pop-up, it wasn't really in our mind all that much. We figured, like I said, like we need at least a year of just like pounding the pavement, getting the food out there and meeting people. And we always just say one customer at a time, you know, like one happy person at a time. They tell somebody. The pop-up kind of opened our eyes to the possibility. And I know Serena being inside and not in a truck, bending over a truck window kind of spoiled her a little bit, you know, and now going into winter, she's got the cold air coming in. She's already, you know, bundling up. It's something that we are looking at, and, you know, if the right situation comes up, you know, we have a couple possibilities out there, and, you know, we're going to see what happens. But we'd love to have the opportunity to have another way to get our food out there.
Yeah, I remember Gabe and I at Runaway had similar conversations. We were doing pop-ups a lot when I first started doing stuff like the farmers market, food truck rodeos, and other partnerships, collaborations. But then we ended up doing a holiday pop-up in what is now Bull City Dental. That space was empty at the time, and the building owner, Aaron, let us use it for 12 or 13 days just because it was a very public space and it was going to sit empty over the holidays. He was like, you guys should make good use of it. And so that was the first iteration of that for us. And then the very next year in 2015, we did another pop-up as well in the parlor space. You know, they've since expanded and have that second section with all the chairs and everything. But you know, as you can imagine, when you're serving ice cream in the wintertime, there's not as much of a fervor for cold food. And so they allowed us to collaborate with them, and Gabe ended up doing a T-shirt design for them in exchange for us using that pop-up space as well. And so we'd done 2 pop-ups 2 years in a row for the holidays and had that same, you know, the light bulb went off for us as well. It's like, oh, well, okay, if we're able to get this much business in just a short window of time, granted it was the holidays, but, you know, if we had a permanent space where people knew about us year round, what would it look like for us and for the business going forward? And so having those opportunities, and that's, I think, what they're trying to do as well at the pop-up space with ATC is to be that bridge between, okay, I have a proof of concept, I have something that people want, let me test it at that next level without committing too much and taking too much risk in signing on to a permanent space. So that it sounds like that was successful enough for you guys that you're at least considering, you know, taking that next step. If you were to get a permanent space, what would you guys want to do with it as part of the food culture here and just sort of the Durham community? What would you want to offer besides obviously the fantastic food?
We've always, you know, wanted to have a space that creative people could come, you know, that somehow music is involved, somehow the visual artists in our city are involved, a place that people can come and, you know, gather, whether it's, you know, for meetings or whatever. We just want to be that place, and our truck kind of says that, you know, as well.
Was there a place like that for you when you were younger? It was like the spot that you and all your friends always went to after school, or you knew like, okay, I can't find anybody. I don't know where everyone's is. More than likely, they're probably hanging out at this spot. Like this is our base.
I like when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a mobile gas station.
Okay.
So it was more of a, you know, that was before, you know, cell phones and all that. So if you didn't know where anybody was, you just went to mobile and there was a payphone there, you know. So and people hung out there.
Yeah.
That was small town Connecticut stuff, but yeah, I mean, I just want that community space again, where, you know, it's good music, good food, good drink, you know, things that we can't necessarily do with the truck. We have collaborated in the past where we did something with Dirty Bull. We had like an anniversary party, and we had Calvin Jones, a guitar player, singer, come and play, and it was nice having that vibe, having our food, handing our food to people, and having them go inside and listen to music and have a drink, So it would be nice to have that atmosphere and be able to have a venue for people.
Yeah. Do you guys think about your place in the broader food culture here? Because as Durham is expanding, there's new things every day. New buildings go up. There's new restaurants that go in them. But there tend to be a lot of the same chefs and restaurant owners that are bringing a lot of these things online. And so when you're considering opening your own space, is there this desire to break the mold of, what restaurant ownership looks like in Durham?
Yeah, I think, we are in a sense with our truck as well, because there are trucks with some similar things, but like our menu is different, our concept is different. For us, we're celebrating the things that make Puerto Rican food and soul food. It's Native Americans and Taino Indians that were on the island of Puerto Rico. It's slaves on both the island and in the U.S. and Europeans. And so again, it's taking those two things and mixing them. Mac and cheese with Puerto Rican style roasted pork. Empanadas with different things inside them that normally you wouldn't find. So I think we're doing that a little bit already with the truck, and also we're outside that regular mold, because we're just making it up as we go, to be honest with you. We don't really have a playbook or something to reach back on in our history of restaurant ownership, because it doesn't exist.
You didn't
go
to culinary school,
right?
Yeah,
and that can be a positive and can be a negative. And the positive is, I think in one sense, it doesn't mentally isolate us to certain ideas because we don't know any better. The negative could be, we don't know any better, and
sure.
so we make some stumbles, but that we wouldn't make if we already knew. But I think that's just part of the process as well, and we look forward to the challenge.
Yeah, something that I really appreciate about what you guys do, and I assume this is mostly on your end, is the Instagram stories. Mm-hmm. You guys are really engaging with the full process, showing, you guys preparing the food, going to going shopping for the ingredients, going to the food truck hub that you guys keep everything at, even you mentioned going to the Rocky Mountain Mills Brewing grand opening. Mm-hmm. And so you get to see the full, it's not just the shiny objects that everyone gets to see. They're really seeing the grit and grind that leads up to the finished product. And there's a certain authenticity there that people in Durham appreciate, and even folks coming in from out of town, I think, would appreciate about what you guys offer. The last thing I want to chat with you about is your son Devin. He does he have his own Instagram?
Yeah, it's Lil Bull Beats.
I did know that.
Yeah.
So there's no way that people haven't seen him perform somewhere in Durham at this point. But Devin is aspiring musician, is a fantastic drummer. Does he play any other instruments?
No, just the drums.
Okay, just the drums.
And sings.
Okay.
Badly.
I haven't actually heard him sing yet.
Nah, it's just sounds and noises.
Well, you got to start somewhere. Where does he get his musical chops from?
So Serena and I, we have a very broad, love of music, from hip hop to Metallica. So we listen to everything, and so he's from the jump has heard all types of music. His requirement for being a part of our family was, this isn't Barney. You're gonna listen to what we listen to. And so I think that, is the basis of it. And then I've always wanted to play the drums, and I had friends who had drum sets, and so I'd play them, and I can keep a beat. That's about it. So I knew when we had Devin, there was going to be a drum set involved, and I just hoped that he liked it.
You could live vicariously through him.
Right, exactly. And so we got him a Mickey Mouse drum set, I think when he was 1, and he just beat on it, tore it up, and then my sister was getting rid of my nephew's drum set, and so we got that from her, and he's just it was a lot of actually just playing in front of him and showing him YouTube videos. We'd be in the car and show him YouTube videos of a drummer just playing instructional, and he liked watching it, and it was better than listening to whatever else. And from there, it became him actually playing a beat, and then him playing to a song, and so he could listen to a song and he can pick the beat and he knows the parts.
How old is he now?
He's 6.
6 years old. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I played violin when I was in elementary school, and that was something that was always easier for me, was just hearing it. I wasn't a particularly good sheet music reader, but if you played something for me, it clicked. And I think at that age, that's really where, because kids are so curious, they're absorbing everything.
Right.
And for him to be able to just, and that's part of the power, I think, of YouTube, even though there are tons of negatives, is being able to just like go online and find 50 instructional videos of drummers and just say, hey, like, you think you can do this?
Right.
And now he's a rising star in the Durham community. I saw him recently on the Durham NC, Discover Durham Instagram.
Yeah,
and
we dressed him up as Animal.
Yeah, for Halloween out at Major the Bull with his drum kit, and it's really impressive what he is able to do, playing along with all the rock songs that people would know, but then also being able to do stuff like North Cac.
Right.
I know he's a big J Gun fan, and G Yamazawa fan as well. Is that something that he's looking to pursue? Is drumming, or is that he's kind of at that phase where it's like, oh, I could do drumming, I could do sports, he's like every kid, he wants to do everything.
No, I mean, that's been a constant. That's one thing that has been a constant since, he has, again, since 1, like he's been into different things, but that's something that he can go upstairs and do on his own, turn on the TV and, put some music on and play to it. So, and as far as, I mean, who knows, kids can get burnt out from something and never want to look at it again.
Yeah.
So it's something we don't really put pressure on him for. It's something he likes to do, and and he's welcome to do it, and hopefully it turns into something for him. I know one of the coolest things about being a parent is watching that transition, not just with drums, but just life. I mean, you have this little sponge, and they're watching everything you're doing, and you present these things to them, and to watch it turn into something else, where again, he was just, his arms were just flailing around at one point. Now he's making music, he's being creative, and watching him be creative is cool.
Does he have an outlet for that stuff at school? Is there a school band, or maybe he's starting his own band soon?
No, I mean, right now they do have music, but again, I think it's just a basic thing. And they had I think they were gonna have a talent show, but for the younger kids, I don't think we're involved in it. Which we were kind of disappointed about, because we were like, I mean,
I think maybe they were just scared he was gonna beat everybody out. They didn't want to hurt the older kids' feelings.
So, and him and I used to be in a band. I think I got kicked out.
Oh.
When he was younger, he thought that we were in a band, and then now, and I would play the guitar. But now that he's gotten better, like, I think he realized that I'm terrible at.
He left you behind.
Yeah, and and my playing Iron Man, it was him a couple times telling me I wasn't playing it right, where I was like, all right, well, this ship has sailed.
Yeah. Yeah.
The gig is up. He knows I'm terrible.
Have to redo that contract.
Right. But
Well,
no.
I guess when he gets off his world tours, maybe he'll inherit the family business. And
I don't know. Look, I told him he's been wanting to go on tour. Like he has actually mentioned that, and I think Jay Gunn at one point mentioned, like maybe jokingly said something about, well, maybe you can go on tour with me. And before then, he's been wanting to go on tour with somebody, and so since then, he's been like,
he's locked in.
Yeah, he's like, I told him I just want to be a roadie. I want to go. That's it. So I don't know if he goes on the road. I don't think he's coming back to a food truck. So
Well, we'll definitely have to have Devin on as well to tell his side of the story and see where his career is headed. Toriano, thanks for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure. I look forward to seeing where the food truck takes you guys and what the next step is. Thanks for listening, everyone. This has been another episode of the Buddy Ruski Show. Again, make sure you check out our previous episodes with Nick Wallhauser and Mandy Paget on the website at buddyruski.com. And check out the Patreon page as well, patreon.com/BuddyRuski. You can see what other projects we're up to, what other podcasts we're experimenting with, some other creative endeavors as well. So make sure you check out the Patreon page, and we will see you guys again next week. Peace.